Okay, let's get started. Today we will be covering section 13.4, Measures of Central Tendency. An average is a number that represents a group of data. There are at least 4 different averages that we will be talking about. These averages are the mean. The symbol that is used to represent this is an X with a bar over it. The median, X with a dot. The mode, and the mid-range. No special symbols for either one of those. Each of these is calculated differently and may yield a different result for the same set of data. Each will result in a number near the center of the data. For this reason, averages are commonly referred to as measures of central tendency. These calculations give us a number near the center, so they're called measures of central tendency. The mean, this is the most common one. You often hear it called the average, though it's really only one of the different forms of average. It is the sum of the data divided by the number of pieces of data. So this is the formula that they give. You simply take however many things you have in your data set, you add them up. That symbol means the sum of the numbers. And you divide by how many numbers you have. N is the total number of numbers. And that gives you X with a bar over it, which represents the mean. The median is the value in the middle, middle of the set of ranked data. Ranked data means that you have to have your numbers ordered from lowest to highest or highest to lowest. They have to be in increasing or decreasing order ranked. Next is the mode. So we can number these. The first measure, the second measure, and the third measure is the mode. The mode means the piece of data that occurs most frequently, the most common or most frequent data item, data piece. And the mid-range, that's the fourth one. This one you don't see that often. The mid-range is the set, is the value halfway between the lowest, which they're calling L, and the highest, which they're calling H, in the set of data. So you simply take the lowest value and the highest, add them together, divide by 2. So you average the high and the low, and that gives you the mid-range. Okay, so now we have the vocabulary, and we'll be ready to start working with a few examples. Okay, the directions at the top of this page say to find the mean, median, mode, and mid-range of the following sets of data. So we will do that. First we will calculate the mean. I'm going to do this by hand, and then we are going to take our calculator and learn how to do it on the calculator, because sometimes, particularly in my math lab, you get data sets with larger numbers that are a nuisance to do by hand. So we take the numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 7, and we add them up and we divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers in the set, so we divide by 5. So I'm going to take my calculator and simply do that. Let's see, 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 7 equals to 23. And we're going to divide that by 5. And we get 4.6, okay, as the mean. Now let's go ahead and learn how to do that on your calculator. So using the special functions of your calculator, turn your calculator on, clear it out, and go to the data section. You can see that mine already has some data in it, so I'll need to clear that out. If you have a new calculator, it will not have that problem. So I'm going to hit the second function of the data, and you'll see that it says one variable. If this is your first time to use a calculator, you can simply check that. I need to move over with the arrows here, not to two variables, but again to CLR data, clear data, and that's what I want to select. So I go down here and I hit enter to clear the data. Now I'm going to go back in, press data again, and it's cleared out. It doesn't have any numbers stored in it at this point. So I put my first number in, 1, and I arrow down, and it asks for the frequency. And as you remember, the frequency means how many ones we have. We only have one, so I arrow down again, and it says, what is your x2, your second x? I place a 3 there, arrow down. There's only one of those, arrow down again. The third x is a 5, and I arrow down. I only have one 5. And finally, the last x that I have to enter is a 7, and I arrow down. Notice that since I have two 7s, I can simply press a 2 because the frequency, I have 2 of those. And then I hit in, well, let's arrow down one more time. Okay, we don't need it anymore. So I'm going to hit enter at this point. Yes, I don't need to hit enter. I simply go to the calculation, and that says stat var. So I press stat var, and it's statistical variables. It gives me the statistics on these values that I placed in. It tells me that the number of numbers that I put in, the total number, was 5, and that is correct. We put 5 numbers in. If I arrow over 1, you'll see an X with a bar over it. That is the mean, and it displays 4.6, which is what we got when we calculated it by hand. Okay, these others will come up in the next section, and we'll cover them then. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way at this point, and we'll do the next measure of central tendency, which is the median. The median means the middle, and when we have 5 numbers, we simply need to look at what is in the middle, right? We have 2 above that and 2 below it, so it's literally the middle. The median in this particular set of data is 5. And then we need the mode. The mode means the most frequently occurring, and that would be the value of 7. And finally, the mid-range. If you'll remember, we're to take the lowest one, they call that L, plus the highest one, which is 7. Add those and divide by 2. We're averaging the high and the low. So we get 8 divided by 2, and that gives us 4. So these are 4 different averages that tell us roughly where the center of the data is, depending on how you're calculating the center. Okay? Measures of central tendency. Okay, next example. This has only 4. Notice we had 5 up here, and it was really easy to find the middle. This next one's a little different. So we begin by calculating the mean, and you could simply add these 4 numbers and divide by 4, but I'd like to do this again on the calculator because that's probably new to you. Let's clear and go to data. Oh, and I remember now I have data in there. Actually, I already remembered. So we hit second and then data, and we arrow over twice, and that lets us clear the data, hit enter. All right, now we're ready to put the data in, so I press the data. The first data item is a 10, and the frequency of that is only 1. Arrow down again. Second is a 20. I only have one of those. Arrow again. 30. So I just arrow down until I get the next X4. The fourth X would be 40. Okay, and I have one of those. And so now I need to do the statistics. So I press here, and it says, yes, you have 4 data items. Good. And the average is the second function there, and it says the average is 25. Okay. So, and that one probably would have been just as easy to calculate by hand rather than use the functions, but I want you to get used to those on the calculator that we're using in this class. Then we go to the median. The median means the middle. The middle here would be in the middle between those two, right? Because that's where the middle would be. So in this case, we have to take the 2 that are in the middle and average them to get the actual middle. So 30 plus 20 is 50. 50 divided by 2 is 25. Okay, and we could have probably looked at that. Notice that the mean and the median are the same on this set of data. That happens sometimes. And then we have the mode. And the mode means the most frequently occurring. What is most frequent in this set of data? Well, there isn't anything. Should we put a 0? No. that would mean that there are many zeros, and there aren't any zeros at all. So in a situation like this, we simply say no mode. Okay? None. There is none. And then we finally do the mid-range. And that we take by taking the low value plus the high value, adding them together and averaging them. 50 divided by 2 equals 25. And this is a very centered set of data. 3 of the measures of central tendency are the same. Okay, good. And final example here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 data items. And we begin by calculating the mean. And I believe I'll use the, oops, mean. I believe I'll use the calculator for this. Okay, so I clear the data, second data, and I arrow over twice and clear the data out. And then I press the data again. And the first data item, I have to put the 0 in because it's actually a value in this set. And I arrow down. In fact, I have 2 of those, so I change the frequency to 2. And then I arrow down. The next different value is a 4. Arrow down. I only have 1 of those. Arrow again. 4. And then I follow with a 6. Arrow down, 1 of those, and finally an 8. Arrow down. Notice I have 2 of those, so I'll go ahead and put frequency of 2 there. All right, and that's the end of that. And so I do my statistical variables, and I double check. Yes, there were 6 values that I was entering. Move over, and the mean is 4.33, and it should tell you on MyMathLab how to round this. I'm going to round it to the nearest tenth until I find out otherwise, okay? But it will tell you, or you can redo the question, of course, with no penalty if it doesn't tell you. So on the test, of course, I will make it very clear how to round. Next, we need to do median. That's the middle. We have 6, so we have 3 above and 3 below. The center is going to be between those two. This only works if these are arranged from lowest to highest, and they are, so we're in luck. So I take the 2 that are in the middle, the floor and the 6, and I average those, and I get 5. It's pretty close to the other measure of central tendency. And then we do the mode. All right. What's the mode here? Mode is the most frequently occurring. In this particular problem, we have 2 zeros, and we also have 2 8s. So we have 2 modes. In this case, we call it bimodal. And we simply list the modes. 0 and 8 are the modes. There is also a trimodal. That would mean we have 3 modes. Beyond that, we don't really use quadrimodal or anything like that. We stop talking about the mode if we have that many modes. It's not a good measure of central tendency. All right. And finally, we need the mid-range for this set of data. Let me adjust the camera here. Mid-range. And for this, we take the low plus the high, and we average them, divide by 2. That gives us 8 over 2, which gives us 4 as the mid-range. Good. All right, so let's move on to some applications of the measures of central tendency, some word problems. The first one is sort of useful. Yes. Christoph's mean average, okay, so we're going to get the mean, on 5 exams is an 86. Determine the sum of his scores. So they're talking about the mean, and they want us to determine the sum. When we calculate the mean, we take the sum and divide by 5. So let's let S equal the sum. That's our unknown. Be careful, sometimes your S's may look like 5s. So when we know that the average is 86. So when I add all the scores up and I divide by how many there are, and they said that there were 5, then that should equal 86. So we simply solve this equation by multiplying both sides by this common denominator of 5. Okay, and on the left, notice the 5's will cancel, and we'll have S is equal to, now we grab our calculator and take 86 multiplied by 5, oops, 86 multiplied by 5 is 430. So if his average is an 86, then the sum of the tests, we don't know what the test scores are, but they add up to 430, okay? Good. Now, creating a data set. You'll have some of these on MyMathLab. These are good problems. They involve some problem-solving skills, so they're good for us to think about. We're to construct a set of 5 pieces of data in which the mode has a lower value than the median, and the median has a lower value than the mean. Okay, so we'll use only positive numbers, and we're constructing a data set. So we need 5 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what we know about the numbers that we're filling in is that the mode has to be a value that is lower than the median. So pick any number to be the mode. I'm going to pick 10. The mode means I need it more than once, so I don't want any other value to be listed twice or more, because that's going to be my mode. And it says the mode will be less than the median. So let's make the median 20. Okay, so we could write down that the mode now is 10 and the median is 20. Okay, because it's in the middle. Now I have to come up with the last bit of information. It says median has a lower value. The median has a lower value than the mean. So I want my mean to be larger. If I want the mean to be larger, let's just put some big numbers in here and play it safe. Let's put 80 and 100. Why not? And there was no magic to choosing those. I just arbitrarily chose them. So now I'm going to calculate the mean real quickly and make sure that my mean is in fact larger and I've satisfied all the conditions. 10 plus 10 plus 20 plus 80 plus 100. That added up to 130. No, that's not right. Let's see. Let's try that again. Okay, 220. That looks right because we have 100, 220, yes. And we're going to divide that by 5 because we have 5 numbers. So 44 is the mean. And so we've satisfied all 3 conditions. On a test, this would probably be a 10-point question. I would give you like 3 points for this, 3 points for this, 3 points for this. Probably. Maybe 5 points, I'm not sure. Okay, let's do another one of that type. Those are a little different. You've probably not done those before. Construct a set of 6 pieces of data with a mean, median, and mid-range of 75, where no 2 pieces of the data are the same. Okay, we have to have 6 values. Okay, there are my blanks that I'll fill in. And the median has to be 75, and the mean has to be a 75, and the mid-range has to be a 75. Then there's no mode, right? It says no 2 pieces are the same, so there's no mode. Okay, if I want this to be 75, then the values around it have to average to 75. So I could take a 74 and a 76 because they average to 75. I went above 1 and below 1 and they kept the average here. So I'm going to use that same principle to go up. If I go 2 up from the average and put 77 here and 2 below the average, 73, that should keep the average still at 75, but we are going to check it in a minute. And add 3 to 75 and we get 78. Take 3 away from 75, we get 72. So I've kept this balanced as I've gone through it. So now I know that the median is 75, and I need to check the mean in the mid-range. So go ahead and calculate the mean of the data. Grab your calculator, and you can use the statistical function, or you can do it by hand. I'm adding them up. And I get 450. And I divide it by 6, and it gives me an average of 75. So I calculated the mean is right. I know the median is right. Now I need the mid-range. To get that, I take the low plus the high. So I'm going to take 72 plus 78 and divide that by 2, and it turns out to be 75 also. Okay, so I'm checking those with my calculator to verify that I've satisfied all the stipulations on this question.